After one of the greatest successful runs in U.S. business history, NetApp CEO Dan Warmenhoven recently stepped aside after 15 years. The company appointed Tom Georgens to fill these very large shoes. Tom is no stranger to NetApp, having been handpicked as the likely successor many years ago. Tom's been running day-to-day operations for some time now. As with any transition of this magnitude, though, Georgens will be in the spotlight, his every move critiqued. Tom was nice enough to sit with me recently to give us some insight into how he thinks, what might change with the new NetApp, and what we should expect will stay the same.
So first of all, Steve, I've been with the company for 4 years, and Dan and I have worked together on the strategy over that period of time. And frankly, if we weren't in alignment over that period of time, we would not have had an orderly transition. In fact, it either wouldn't have been orderly or there would have been no transition at all. So one case, he clearly did not want to make a transition in the midst of a storm. And while the economy is by no means robust, clearly we've seen a period of stabilization. NetApp has beaten the numbers both on the top line and the bottom line 2 quarters in a row. And the business is certainly seeing some degree of performance relative to the competition. I think in addition, the industry obviously is going through a major transition. Virtualization has enabled a lot of new technologies and a lot of new capabilities. Budget pressures and budgets will probably not be the same on the other side of this economic downturn as going in. So they too will be thinking about what they are going to do as companies, how they're going to implement their new architectures, whether they're going to buy it or build it themselves, whether they're going to use cloud computing. So I think there's a new era, both in terms of the economic conditions, both in terms of market and customer behavior. And as a result, NetApp has to respond to that, both in terms of our technologies and our go-to-market strategy. So it's also a new era for the company as well. So when we think about server virtualization, the initial value proposition around server virtualization was effectively cost, the ability to run many virtual machines on a single piece of hardware. And the net result of it was much, much higher degrees of asset utilization. However, I think that the virtualization model has been extended well beyond that. When applications are now mobile, applications can move from server to do dynamic load balancing and things of that nature. They could also move from data center to balance resources and do disaster recovery. And they can also move internal to external and effectively enable a whole infrastructure called cloud computing. So if applications are mobile and customers want to build a broad infrastructure that can be dynamically allocated to individual applications, then the desire is to build the same thing from a storage perspective. And that is a big, broad, centrally managed storage infrastructure that can be dynamically managed and dynamically allocated to applications. If applications are mobile, then the storage needs to be mobile as well. So from a NetApp perspective, if you look at our value proposition, one of the things that we have always promoted has been unified storage, the ability to do SAN and NAS on the same box. If you're going to build a big, broad infrastructure to serve many applications, it's going to be a requirement that you're going to have multi-protocol support. So I would contend that in this particular environment, when people want to build a homogeneous infrastructure that's managed as one single pool, but have the requirement to have multi-protocol support, then the unified storage story that NetApp offers, I think, is more compelling today than it's ever been. The other thing is if you're going to run many applications on your infrastructure, and in the case of cloud computing providers, many applications for many customers at the same time, you need to segment your infrastructure so you can provide the security and also the quality of service that each individual customer requires. And therefore, technology around multi-tenancy is key. And we have technologies that allow us to parse our machines into individual boxes that are safe, secure, with quality of service, that allows multi-tenancy to happen from a storage perspective. And then more broadly, the pure economics. NetApp's virtualization story is very, very closely linked to our storage efficiency story. And as a result, if you look at thin provisioning, deduplication on both secondary and primary, and you also look at our virtual cloning technology, it allows you to create zero-space copies without duplicating the physical space for instant provisioning of virtual machines or creating of test and dev copies. That whole storage efficiency story allows people to dramatically reduce the cost of their storage infrastructure. We have customers that talk about cutting the cost of their storage in half. So when you think about it, from unified storage, from multi-tenancy support, from a strong, efficient, storage-efficient infrastructure that dramatically lowers the cost of delivering that functionality, and now enabled with data on tap that allows clustering to manage multiple boxes as if they were one, then I think NetApp has a very compelling value proposition here, and therefore cloud computing is a huge opportunity for us. So as we go forward from here, cloud computing and virtualization has tremendous implications from a product perspective and also tremendous implications from a go-to-market perspective. If you're a company like NetApp, NetApp has grown a lot over the years, but we still have a tremendous amount of market share yet left to gain. And as a result, coverage will always be a top priority for us. So what's exciting to us from a go-to-market perspective around cloud computing is that the cloud providers are going to consolidate a substantial amount of customer demand. And for a company like NetApp that's seeking to achieve greater coverage, the leverage associated with winning this class of customer base with our compelling value proposition gives us tremendous sales leverage in going forward. But one thing I would add is that even though we've done a lot of things from a technology perspective to respond to the new era, we have a lot of things to do from a go-to-market perspective to go for a new era. The one thing that's really key to NetApp that we believe is a core value for us and something that's a long-term differentiator is really the culture of the company. So products may change, strategies may change, go-to-market may change, but at the end of the day, the culture that has allowed us to be #1 in Fortune Magazine's Great Place to Work survey, and the culture that we believe is a long-term differentiator, that's not going to change. So I think how we define ourselves, how we measure success, how we go about building a model company, which is our aspiration, the tangible components I think will change as we get bigger and the financial goals will change, but the underlying culture and values of the company that have gotten us this far are absolutely intact and something I have no intention with tinkering with. In fact, if anything, I want to enhance.